Hello and welcome to Sew and Stack by Abaniz. I know for a fact many readers are very protective and immensely love their books. That is why these kind of book sleeves are very popular, and I actually think these are very cute. It's also a great place to keep your day-to-day reads and journals. Now let's see how to make one. For the outside, we are going to need 8.5 by 11 inches fabric piece, and we will need 2 from that. All of these are pre-washed cotton fabric. Since this is a lined book sleeve, we will need 2 pieces of fabric measuring the same as the outside fabric. I'm using a craft fuse for this project, but it's completely optional. If you are using fusible fleece, you will also need 2 pieces of craft fuse measuring the same. To attach the fuse to the fabric, we place the wrong side of the outside fabric facing the shiny side of the craft fuse. Then start to iron on top of the fabric piece only. Make sure it's completely sticking to the fabric and then start on the other one. The reason why we are using this craft fuse is to give a little stability to our book sleeve. After you are done with ironing, check out if there are any craft fuse parts that are not aligning with the fabric pieces. If so, carefully cut those parts out. I'm using an elastic band and a button for my book sleeve, and you can skip this part if you are not interested. Take one of the outside fabric pieces and fold it in half to find the middle line. Mark 2 inches from the top on that line. This is where we are going to sew the button. You have to do a little bit of hand sewing for this one and thread your needle with a matching color of your choice. Make a knot at the end of the thread and start to sew. Stop the sewing when you feel like the button is attached okay, and make a couple of knots at the back of the fabric to end the stitch. Trim the thread at the end. Place the right side of the outside fabric with the button facing up and place the inner fabric piece on top of that. The lined fabric that I'm using doesn't have a pattern, but if we are using a one with a pattern, make sure the right sides of the both fabrics are facing each other. Now pin along the top line. We are going to sew along this line later. Let's move to the other outside piece. Find the middle line by folding it half like we did earlier and mark that point using a fabric marking pen. Now this is where we are going to place the elastic band. This one is actually a hairband. I don't have any craft clips. I'm just going to use a pin to place the band. Make sure the longer part of the elastic band is projecting toward the inside like this. Now place the inside fabric piece on top of the outside piece as we did earlier. Make sure the right sides of the both fabric pieces are facing each other and pin the 2 layers along the top line. We are also going to sew along this line. Go to your sewing machine and start to sew one at a time along the top line, leaving a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Do a little back stitch at the beginning and at the ending as well. Trim all the threads at the end. Now move to the piece with the elastic band and start to sew along the line. Slow down when you are reaching closer to the band and carefully remove the pin that is holding your elastic band. Hold the band as it is using your hand and slowly sew on top of it like this. I only got a basic sewing machine and sometimes things can get messy while sewing on top of these kind of elastic bands. End your stitch and trim the thread at the end. You can now cut this elastic part out. We only need the part on the inside. Now let's unfold the 2 fabric layers and lay flat on the table. Place one of the layers on top of the other one like this. Make sure the right sides of the fabrics are facing each other, and also the outside fabric of one layer has to be aligned with the outside fabric of the other layer. Same goes with the lined fabric. Start to pin around the 2 fabrics. Mark approximately 4 inches of space at the bottom part of the lined fabric area like this for turning inside out at the end. After pinning everything, we are going to sew around this, only leaving that 4 inches space. Leave 1/2 inch seam allowance when sewing. Stop and pivot when you are reaching the corners. Slow down when it comes to these bulky parts and remove the pins as you go. Always remember to backstitch at the beginning and at the ending. Trim all the threads at the end. Cut off the 4 corners in a shape of a triangle like this to reduce the bulky parts when turned inside out. Be careful not to damage any of the stitches. Now use that small space we left to turn the book sleeve inside out. You might need to use something with a blunt end like this wooden rod to push all the corners. Press the opening we left using your hands, and we are going to do a top stitch to enclose this opening. Try to sew closer to the edge when you do the top stitch. Since this is gonna be the lining of the book sleeve, nobody can see it from the outside. Trim all the threads. Set your iron settings according to the fabric you have selected and iron everything flat. Now enter the lining fabric bag inside of the outside bag like this. Start to iron around the folded edge to keep everything in place. You can leave it like this, or you can do a top stitch around the opening end to give it a more finished look. As I told you earlier, things get a little messy when I use my sewing machine to go on top of these kind of elastic bands. Trust me, I have tried. What I'm gonna do is, I'm doing a little detour, skipping those elastic parts when I do the top stitch. Then I don't have to go on top of the elastic part. I think you can see on the video how it looks. The rest of it is going to be the regular top stitch, and I also slow down a bit when it comes to the two corners, because those got more layer of fabric. Do a little back stitch and that's the end of it. Now trim all the threads. This is the final look of our book sleeve, and actually it doesn't take much of your time. You can also use fabric scraps from your larger projects for this one. It has a cute button and your favorite books can have a safe and cozy time in here. I really like how it turned out, and thank you all for watching. Now please subscribe to the channel and I'll join you in the next one.